the cloud. I don't know where the cloud is. Hopefully Erin can find it because I don't think I want it on my computer. Okay. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here with us and to participate in this class on multiple offers. And the reason that the timing of this was so important is more of you are probably running into multiple offers more now than you may ever have before in the entirety of your career. Is that a fair statement to most people?
In Cape Breton, we don't have a lot, but I have occasional ones, yeah.
Right. Anybody else? Like the other thing too is you can take yourselves off mute to participate because, you know, talking to myself, you know, I'm perfectly capable of talking to myself. You know, it's nice to have some other voices participate in the discussion.
I had a rural property last year where I had 7 offers.
Wow. I'm sorry, I missed who was just speaking.
Carol.
Oh, hi, Carol.
Hi there.
Yeah. So it is really important to know how to do it, and it's on both sides. We're going to talk about both sides of this. We're going to talk about as a seller's agent and as a buyer's agent because they're different, okay? So Holly just said, every time I want to see a property these days, they have an accepted offer an hour ago, seriously, 6 times. So that would be Holly venting just a little bit. So let's talk first about how to deal with a multiple offer as a seller. And then let's talk about how to deal with it as a buyer. Does that work for everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because your perspective on a multiple offer is going to be different depending on which side you're on. Okay. So let's go from the beginning. So first thing is understanding as a seller's agent what you can and cannot disclose when you're in multiple offers. And how do you deal with them coming in, and how do you deal with communication? Because those are the biggest problems and the biggest areas where we will get into trouble. What is it doing here? Okay, so I'm just going to mute. There we go. Nope, it's decided that Ken Cormier, you're the active speaker at all times. So not sure why. So anyway, oh, maybe it's Pat. I don't know. Anyway, it's okay. So the idea here is to really have a conversation about how to protect yourself, okay? So I am actually going to mute everybody. Everyone will be allowed to unmute themselves. I can already start to hear background noises, so that's what I'm going to do. You're all going to be muted, and then when you want to talk, just unmute yourself. Please join in verbally with me when you have questions versus just by message, just in order to make sure that it's a little more interactive. So let's start from the beginning. So you're a seller's agent. You're taking a listing, and you're going to have a conversation with your sellers about whether or not they're interested in accepting multiple offers, because that's part of your conversation in doing your listing agreement. So when you do that, you need to understand how to explain that. And the first thing to make sure that we are clear with our sellers is to say things such as, you know, this is not HGTV. You know, we're not, you know, you're not going to do an open house and come home and have 10 offers on the table necessarily, depending on, unless you're in a particular sub-district, most particularly in Halifax. But generally speaking, multiple offers mean in Nova Scotia, on average, there are exceptions now more than ever, but on average, it means really great terms, good closing date, maybe less or no conditions, or they don't ask for things on inspection. And, you know, that's sort of what we're aiming for when we're looking at multiple offers. The other thing that we want to talk about is what information will be shared. So if we explain that when there's an offer that comes in, we're going to communicate back with the other parties that were interested to let them know that we have received an offer and we will be presenting it at X time. You cannot tell another party what time the offer is open till, because then you are revealing confidential information about an offer. You can tell them what time you're presenting. Now, that might happen to coincide with the time it's open till, but not necessarily. So you would call, let them know, and then if somebody else wants to come to the table, then they have the right to come in. It's like playing poker. Nobody knows what anybody else has or the terms of anybody else's agreement. It's time for everybody to put their A game forward. So when we receive the second offer, we would then let the first people know that they are now in competition and give them an opportunity to change or not change their offer in writing. And then I would present these options to you. Okay, so you're letting them know because you need permission to put tick yes or no on your listing agreement. So you want to have a general understanding of how they work from the very, very beginning as a seller's agent, because you have to have that conversation in order to sign the listing. Does that make sense to everybody? Does anybody have any questions about that element? Yes, no, we're good.
Good so far.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, if you do, just jump in. Okay, so now you're a listing agent and you have this great listing and people are beating down the door to see it. So the first question about being in competition with multiple offers as a seller's agent is you have received offer A. No one else is in competition until you physically receive offer B. So you can tell offer A that you're expecting another offer, but you are not in competition until you have offer 2. When you receive offer 2, then you must notify offer 1 that they are in competition because they didn't write their offer based on that. Okay. Now I'm going to add another piece to this, which is sometimes what happens is you receive offer 2 and offer 2 writes their offer knowing they're in competition. Okay. And then what has happened is, and it does happen more frequently now, is offer A, who was the first person, when you call them to say you're now in competition, they choose to withdraw their offer. So now what do? I want to see and Tammy's not allowed to answer the question. Now I want to see what your guys' thoughts are on what you would do in that situation. I'm a little ahead, but I think it's a good place to start. Anybody?
You have to notify offer 2 because they're no longer in competition.
I'm telling offer 2 what?
That they're no longer in competition.
Right. So
that if they would like to change their offer or continue with the current offer, that they need to let me know.
Right. That's really, really, really important. So what Janice is talking about is fair play. So we have a duty of care to people with whom we do not have agency. So if you've received that offer, and as soon as you got that, you got on the phone and you called Mary at whatever real estate office to say, okay, you're now in competition. They go, oh my God, let me call my clients. They call you back 5 minutes later and go, no, we're not interested. I don't understand why you withdraw because you can just leave your existing offer. You might win. Who knows what the other one is, but that's a different conversation. So they decide to pull out. So what should happen is you should not present or even ideally open the email of the second offer or do anything with it until you have notified the other one. You can see that it's there, but you don't really want to read the details of it because if they decide to change it, it's easier if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, then you need to basically erase it from your brain if they decide to come back in with a different offer. They might choose to keep it as is because they know it's a hot property and they want to let their existing offer stand. But you want to make sure that you've made that call, as Janice has said, to reach out and let them know that they are no longer in competition and you will not present the existing offer until you get an instruction from them in writing to do so.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah, Holly, that's all Holly. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so inadvertently you have opened that email because you really didn't know it was coming and you opened it and you saw that they offered $300,000. Now your other offer has withdrawn. So you're calling offer B saying, oh, I got to let you know offer A has withdrawn. Do you want to continue with that offer? So they decide they're going to change the offer. I'm the seller's agent. They decide they're going to change their offer. I know they offered $300,000. So when they come back with $275,000 or whatever, I know, even though I'm trying to erase it from my brain, the reality is I know that they're can do 300. So is it not feasible for me to say to my client, let's counter at 300?
Yeah, you just want to make sure that again, this is an element of fairness. And this is one of these things where, you know how You've had a client at some point say to you, how do I know I'm even in competition when I write this offer? Right? People have, I guarantee someone has asked one of you that question at some point, because they're like, you're just acting on blind faith. And you're like, well, actually, you know, it's really serious if you know, it's a violation of your duty of care, it's fiduciary duties, you know, blah, blah, blah. If I was to pretend there was a multiple offer and draw out the highest price from someone, I could lose my license. It's kind of a big deal. So
That's not cool.
Right. So, you know, this whole system works on trust, essentially, right? That there is another offer. So that's why treating this way is so important. So can you erase it from your brain? No, Holly. Can you, you know, do you go back to your seller and say, look, this is what it is. This is how high they went. They wrote that in duress, thinking that they were, but you can't hide things from your client because you owe complete transparency to your client. But it's also having a conversation to say, okay, in the interest of fair play and making sure that we are acting at the highest ethical level, we did receive a first offer when they thought they were in competition. They have now changed their offer. And in fairness, we need to treat the new offer alone and counter back at whatever you think we need to counter back at. I will certainly advise you. But I would try to make sure that you're not really abusing that information, because it's information you shouldn't have. They only gave you that information because they were put in a position of duress.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
I know it's hard and it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Most people leave them, honestly. We find that they don't tend to change them because they know they were in a fight and they could easily be in a fight in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But
okay.
I just need you to be aware of what is fair play and how you have to deal with it when someone withdraws. So let's assume nobody's withdrawing, okay? Because that's the more normal situation. I just wanted to kind of go there for a second because it does happen. Okay. So I'm the seller. I receive offer A from, you know, Mary Smith at 123 Realty. I then call Holly. I'll pick on Holly because I usually do. And I now call Holly, who has shown the property, and say, okay, blah, 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 just letting you know, I have now officially received an offer. If you're planning on coming to the table, I will be presenting at 6 p.m. You're like, yeah, I'm definitely doing it. So at 5:30, I now receive Holly's offer. So now I have to go back to Mary at 5:30 and tell her. Now I need to give her more than 30 minutes, right? I was presenting at 5, I was going to present at 6, but I might need to present later now in order to make sure I give an opportunity for the first party to respond. Does that make sense? When you receive a change, they might say, no, I'm going to leave my offer stand. Say, okay, perfect. Can you send me a text or an email to confirm that you are leaving your offer as is the best practice, okay? Because then there's very clear evidence that they were advised they were in multiple and they had the opportunity to make a change. Does that make sense to everybody? Somebody say yes to me. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So if Mary says, no, we're going to leave our offer stand, we're happy with our offer. Okay, great. Now I can present both offers to my client because everybody knows that they're in a fight. And in theory, they've brought their A game. If Mary says, oh my God, okay, we thought this might happen. Okay, I'm going to talk to my clients. I'll call you back. So then Mary calls me back and says, yeah, my clients are going to make a change. I'm going to send you a text. We're going to go up to 290. So then I'm going to go present. Is that how it's supposed to go?
No.
Why?
Because she sent you a text and said.
Right. What does she need to do?
She needs to revise her offer.
Correct.
In writing.
An email or a text message does not suffice as changing your offer. You need initials. You need a new page 1. You need a whole new offer. You need something. You cannot accept the word of an email from a consumer or from an agent because it's not an agreement. It doesn't work. Okay. So then Mary says, oh my God, yeah, I'm doing e-signatures or I'm writing over to the work and can you give me 30 minutes? Yes, you can. You need to. In fair play, you need to give that person, 10 minutes is not fair to say, that you've treated all parties fairly if you don't give them a reason. Now, you're not going to give them 5 hours, but, you can't cut someone off at the knees at 15 minutes. That won't pass the sniff test of fairness. Does that make sense to everybody? So now Mary and Holly have both submitted offers. Mary's made a change to her purchase price and there's initials and maybe she changed her deposit or I don't know, whatever. She did something. So now I have these 2 offers that I'm going to present to my seller. Now I could have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 offers depending on where you are in the city or where you are in the province. So first of all, when you have more than one offer, you do not need to tell them how many offers you have, simply that they are in competition. Everybody clear on that?
Yep.
So yeah,
Yes.
you don't need to tell them how many. Multiple is more than one. They're in multiple offers. Right? People will ask you, well, are they all standard offers? Are they like regular offers? What they're trying to ask you is someone an SOBP or someone cash or whatever? You can disclose nothing because that would be disclosing the terms of an offer. You could have one that's garbage, one that's an SOBP, and one that's great. Doesn't matter. You're in multiples. So now you have, let's say I have 3 offers. Let's just, for, more interesting sake, I have 3 offers that have played. And everybody knows they're in competition and everybody's made whatever changes they make. And now I'm sitting with my seller and I'm going to review these offers. So now what? When I'm dealing with that, the number one thing to know is your timing. So if I'm going to be countering anybody on anything, what does that mean in terms of my timing for multiple offers?
It kind of means nothing. You don't have to adhere by any time because you're not accepting it.
Right.
Correct.
I agree.
That is correct. Gold star for
Yay. Woo-hoo.
Now, at the same time, please do not ignore or not communicate with the other realtors. You need to let them know that your client is reviewing the offers and that we will be getting back to people by no later than X time. Do not leave those consumers hanging. It will bite you in the ass karma-wise later. Okay, people that feel their offers are being ignored, stress, it changes the whole tonality of your deal, and people, regardless of the rules, don't all know them or all understand, and they are looking for an answer by the time for acceptance. Okay, so please communicate when it comes to that. So now, let's say Mary's offer, that's been revised, I've got Holly's offer, and let's say the 3rd offer is from Janice. So I really like Mary's offer, the new one she sent me. It's really, really good, but I really don't like her closing date. So I can counter Mary on the closing date, and like I say, I'm fine with everything else. And I just leave the other 2 to the side. We have a plan. It's going to be Mary, then Holly, then Janice is my order of how our clients like the offers, let's say. So I'm going to go back to Mary, and I'm going to counter her on the closing date. I'm going to make a tight window from a strategic perspective for her to answer me. So she answers me back and says, yep, that's great, perfect, we're fine with whatever you want, signs the counteroffer, accepted. Well, now I have these 2 other offers. So typically, what happens in this situation? What's the normal course of action when I have these other 2 offers? Somebody.
Besides the obvious of letting them know, that's what I'm not sure of. Well,
Right, so that's the normal, is that people let them know that they've accepted offer 1 or offer 5 or whatever. Doesn't matter. You've accepted an offer.
But
That's
if
typical.
But if you have multiple offers, can you not just communicate with them that you would like to hold them for backup offers in case the first offer doesn't work?
So you can. The number one thing that I would tell you to do is to counter the second favorite offer as a backup offer.
Mm-hmm.
Like count and change, maybe change other stuff that made it the second offer, right? Versus the first one. It might be price, it might be conditions, it might be stuff they want out of the house. I don't know. So counter the second one as a backup.
Okay.
So then what do I do with my third one?
You can counter that as a backup too. Backup to
Bingo.
Okay.
Janice is going to get the gold star for that one. So you can domino your people 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 deep. We've gone 4 deep. Gets really complicated beyond 4.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to line up your timing and your conditions and when deposits are due and how you do notice. Please do not go down that road without calling me or one of the broker team. Probably me. I feel like it's Tammy's going to say it's definitely going to be me when you're in that situation. But you don't have to throw the second and third offers in the garbage, which is the typical response that people do. Okay? Make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So now the other thing is, so you, in terms of multiple offers, what can also happen is you receive offer one and you're dealing with them and you have a counter and they send it back. You send a counter, offer one. There's no multiples right now. You send me an offer, Janice sends me an offer, and we send a counter. And you see this more and more now where agents are deciding to make a change to your counter offer without talking to you and changing it and initialing and sending it back like it's a counter to a counter, which, let me be clear, does not exist. So now, in the meantime, I have another offer that has come in. I can now deal with that new offer and tell first offer to go away.
And is that because they have reopened it, because they've changed the counter offer?
Well, they have made a change without our consent.
Right.
And if it's at the edge of the timeline, like if the timeline has passed and they've sent it back to you, there is no timeline for me to sign off on an initial counter offer. So you need to be very, very careful in your timing on how you're dealing with offers, because that window allows another offer to come in. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Clear like mud for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So generally speaking, in multiple offers, when we're a seller, the thing you need to be very careful of is you need to make sure that everyone is entirely clear about what position they are in terms of, are they actually in competition or not? I'll give you another example. Yesterday, I received a call from one of our team, our agents at KW, who had an offer come in on a property. And prior to that, he had said to this agent, just so you know, I am expecting another offer. You're not in competition yet, but I will let you know if you are. So the agent then, that first client then resubmitted another offer. They're not in competition, but they sent a second offer to replace the first one in anticipation of being in competition. So then the agent received the second offer, and as far as he was concerned, the first offer had already replaced their offer and therefore knew that they were in competition. And I said, no, no, no. You did not physically tell them you are in receipt of the second offer. They have a third kick at the cat to change their offer now that the other offer has actually arrived. And you need to document that they have received notice and have that last chance to make a change. Because when they sent in a second revised offer, it may be perceived that they knew they were in competition, but you did not actually give notice that they were. Everyone learning from that one? Other things, when we're a seller, you must disclose to the other parties if you have made any accommodations or for our customer or client that you would be bringing to the table as one of the offers. It is essential.
Can you say that again?
If you have a buyer and you're one of the multiple offers and your offer includes an accommodation on commission, that if you double end in your listing agreement, it says that if you double end, the commission is going to be X versus Y,
Yes.
then you need to make sure that every other agent is aware of that and prepared to make the same accommodation.
Okay.
They don't have to make the accommodation, but they have to know that they have the option to make that accommodation in order to make the numbers work. Janice, you have a question?
So just to clarify on that, so it will be somebody else, so double ending it. So you let them know the accommodation on the commission, what that amount is.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to reveal the terms of that level of your SDBA. That you don't have to tell them the total. You have to tell them that there will be a reduction by 0.5%, let's say, right? On the buyer side.
Okay.
If you bring in a buyer and you have a buyer, one of the offers is yours.
Okay.
And therefore, everybody else needs to be aware of this and prepared to, so that you have the opportunity, should you wish to make the same accommodation in your offer.
Okay. Again, fair play.
Fair play.
Right.
If you don't, how many times have you seen a double end and you go, oh, I bet they made an accommodation on their commission. Well, if they did, they should have told you. And if they didn't, you have the right to take them to the commission. Because it's not you're not all playing on the same field. Like it's not level.
Yeah.
Right?
So Anne,
Sorry, yeah?
yeah, if they decide that they want to change the amount on the commission as well, do you need that in writing?
Yeah, you would put that in a counter offer, right?
So I would put it in the counter, yes.
Yes, and you would get something like, again, you would want them to send you something
Like
to
an email
again,
or a
enroll in.
text.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd rather be in additional clauses on the APS. That's my preference, but you know, it is a little outside because it is part of the deal, and the consumer should also be aware under buyer agency agreements that realtor is also changing their commission because it's disclosure.
Okay, great.
So wouldn't you, okay, so we could do that with an email, but we can't do a price change.
I would say technically it should be in the APS,
Yeah.
but just depending on, you know, it is a disclosure. It's a disclosure element versus a part of the offer. Does that make sense?
Yep, it
So,
does.
of course, my preference always is something like that is actually built into the offer.
Mhm.
But, right, now the other thing too is you should also disclose if one of the parties, in our case, 99.9% of the time, because we have almost entirely banned transaction brokerage from Keller Williams. I'm so excited. If you do have another side, 99.9% of the time they're a customer of which you have no more loyalty to them than you do to the offer that's coming from RE/MAX. So you should also disclose that you have a customer, you would clarify that you have an offer that is being presented by a customer. And that you have no agency relationship, and therefore they will be presented with the same neutrality as any other offer. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
The other thing is in multiple offers, buyer's agents have the right to request to present the offer themselves. They have the right to ask. It is a completely lawful request. You need an instruction from your seller if you receive that request. So if Janice says, you know, I'd really like to, my clients have instructed me to request that I present the offer to your seller. Then you need to pass that request on. It's a lawful request to your seller, and your seller will decide whether they are comfortable with that or not. If you get that request, I would ask that you, to cover your proverbial tookuses, that you get an email or something from your seller saying yes or no they wish to have them present or not. So that other consumer doesn't ever feel that they were biased.
So
It's
what
very
would,
common.
sorry, what would be the advantage to anybody to do that? I'm just struggling with that. Is it the buyer that says?
So the buyer wants you. So let's say Holly, you're the listing agent, and
yes.
I mean, let's be honest, I'm pretty convincing. Like I'm a pretty convincing human. Like I can talk, right? So
No.
So my buyers would like me to present because they want to make sure that you don't bias the presentation of their offer against somebody else's.
Oh, okay.
Especially if I've been told that you have one of the buyers as a customer.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I have a really sad story from the buyers. Like I'll tell you, we won a multiple offer last year, the year before. I don't know. I live in a time warp. Where our clients wrote a letter to attach to our offer. It was a schedule to our offer. And we sent that in. And because it was a schedule, it had to be presented. So we had a lovely story. It was a real story. Like it was not a load of, yes, like our buyers wanted us to include this in their offer to, sway the sellers because they didn't trust that the seller's agent was going to, tell their tale about being a young family and blah, 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 whatever, right?
So does this happen often?
I was just going to ask that.
I wouldn't say often. I will tell you that it's pretty rare that sellers want anything to do with a buyer's agent, but it's a lawful request. And so you need to communicate it, because if you do not, and then later that buyer loses and they make a complaint and say, look, we requested this and you never asked your seller. Oh, bad. Not good.
Yeah.
That will not be good for you.
But what is in a situation that it's all online, so you don't go personally to present, but all online? So
They could phone, maybe there's lots of different scenarios, right? You might say, look, they're not interested, but if your clients would like to submit an email, like you need an instruction. All I'm telling you is you don't have the right to say no.
Uh-huh.
That's not going to happen if you have not asked your seller. You do
Okay,
not
then
have
the
that
seller
right.
says, fine, like whoever, Holly also can call me up and send me an email directly.
You would do a call, like you would be on the call, right? You would do a conference call. You're not letting
Okay.
them at your seller without you there, right? So when it happens in a person's house or at the office or whatever, typically what happens is I'm sitting here, my sellers are sitting here.
Yeah.
I've had it happen twice in my career. And basically I said to my sellers, okay, so you need to be Switzerland and you need to say nothing and you need to let these people come in and talk and say their piece and then they're going to leave and we're going to say nothing. We're going to say nothing while they're there. Thank you very much for coming in and presenting. And then they leave and we talk about it.
Okay, and when it's online, then I don't get the offer. It gets directly from the other realtor to, we are on the phone.
No, they would be on the phone. Like you can do it by phone. You could do it in person. There's really kind of no other way unless you have clients or you're using Zoom video or GoTo or FaceTime or something like that. Typically it's an in-person thing, right? People coming and sitting at people's kitchen table or coming to people's offices. Again, this doesn't happen very often, but in the climate of many multiple offers, it is a request that you will see more often. And I just need you to understand that you do not have the right to unilaterally decide for your seller that they are not going to be in front of that consumer. You don't have the right to do that. That's the message I want you to get.
Okay.
Okay? Very few are going to want to. Very few are comfortable with it. That's why they have you. They're not interested in meeting other parties. That's why they have you around them. But some might say, sure, you know what? If they're that committed and they're that passionate about my house and they want to come talk to me about it, yeah, I'll listen to them. Like you don't know. You do not have the right to just shut it down without asking the question because it is a lawful instruction.
Okay.
Clear? Okay.
Yes.
See? All these things, hopefully you're getting something from this class, okay? So, I have my multiple offers, and I've dealt with A. Maybe I don't counter A. Maybe I accept A. Maybe I do reject B because I don't want multiple offers. I don't want backup offers. So let's talk about backup offers versus no backup offers. So the general thinking is that I want backup offers so that if person A asks me to replace a light bulb, I can tell them to go away and I might move. I will always have this like insurance plan in the back with my backup offer. Now, pardon me, we have a couple of submarkets in Halifax right now where we have 3 in particular. I'm sorry, I have the hiccups. Where it's pretty rare that they're accepting backup offers because the offers that are coming in are 5, 10, and 12 deep. And so they actually want to go back to market and start a whole new fight, should it fall. So it is, again, a seller's discussion or direction as to whether or not they will accept a backup offer or not. So you might prepare a backup offer if you get rejected. If they reject it, that's probably why, is because they're actually prepared to go back to market and have another huge fight with no conditions.
So, and the counter says on the counter, whatever, it might counter price or whatever, and say that this offer
is a backup offer to the currently accepted backup offer.
First backup offer. Could you say first backup offer?
I'll give you guys that wording depending on your scenario when you get to it.
Okay.
And how you're going to time your dates. I'm not going to I don't have a general thing I send out on that because it tends to be a case by case. We need to tweak it a little bit in terms of how we position it. So just all the brokers know how to do backup clauses. So I'm pretty sure Tammy knows how to do backup clauses. I'm speaking for her. So if you have questions, we tend to do that on a one-on-one. Yes, Tammy says yes. Woo! Tammy says yes. So, but yeah, so generally speaking, you want to make sure you have, you might get someone who, as a seller, who says, oh, I'm going to send you a backup offer, and they don't write that it's a backup offer. So then you have to counter it to make sure that it is positioned as a backup offer.
Okay.
I have a question with regards to the buyer on the backup offer. Can they withdraw that at any time? So for instance, they have a backup offer on this offer and then they see something else.
No, it's an accepted offer.
Okay, so they have to wait until whatever we put in there, so they can't go offer on.
Unless you build in a withdrawal clause.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to.
Otherwise,
make sure.
it's kind of useless. It's kind of like, well, I'd
Yeah.
like you to hold the spot for me, but yeah, I might leave.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
So-
thought. Okay,
Most sellers won't accept it generally.
right.
But typically in multiple offers, you tend to have really short conditions. And so typically they're not waiting too long, right? Now, I can tell you that if you go to the lawyer, you'll be able to get out of the deal based on lawyer review because it's no longer suitable, blah, blah, blah. But that's a whole other production, right? You really want to make sure that if you're going back up offer, your client's prepared to wait for that 10 days or whatever it is till the conditions are done. Most conditions on multiple offers are less than 7 on average, would be my experience. Okay. Okay, so as a seller, do we have any questions? I think I've covered everything, unless Tammy tells me that I've missed something. I think I've covered the general gist of the do's and don'ts of how you deal with multiples, right?
So can I ask a question, Anne?
Absolutely.
So if they put a withdrawal clause in the counter with their now the backup offer, and you reject it, they have to put in an entire new offer as a backup offer because you can't counter?
You cannot counter a counter.
Okay.
Yes. So that's the danger because we have a bad habit in our industry of changing counters based on verbal and initialing them and waiting for the other set of initials. When you do that, there's no timeline. And if someone else sneaks in and your clients think they have an accepted offer based on your discussion and having sent it over in initials, you will lose. You will also be brought before the commission because you have left your client vulnerable.
Yes.
Fun, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So,
I just have a question. We
Yeah.
did cover the fact that you do not let the other side know that you have a backup, correct?
right. Okay. So, thank you so much, Tammy. So, she's not just a pretty face, you know. So when we have, I'm trying to shush my notifications just a second because it's,
I keep reading them. They come up on the screen. I thought they were from me.
No, they're not supposed to show up. So do not disturb on. My apologies all. Okay, so backup offer. So in terms of revealing that a backup offer exists, you cannot do that without an instruction in writing from your seller. You cannot just casually have a conversation with someone else or the person who has the first offer in about, well, you better think twice about sending me that amendment. I have a backup offer. You better not send that. If you don't have that instruction in writing, you are cooked. Can't do it. It's confidential. Cannot reveal it. Why? Anybody?
Would it be just kind of what you just said? Because you said we couldn't reveal it, right?
Cannot
Without
reveal it.
Unless we have instruction from our seller.
In writing.
In writing. And in writing being?
An email is fine.
Okay. All right.
The reason for it is that you are basically, number one, you're revealing the confidential terms of another agreement, or even the fact that another agreement exists between parties that are separate to the current agreement. So that's a breach. The other thing too is that you could negatively affect the position of your seller, depending on what it is, because depending on what's happening, maybe the backup offer is better.
Right.
And you actually want the first people, right?
To go away.
Go
yeah.
away, right? So, there's different areas or, there's all different factors to it. You just can't reveal stuff like that without instructions in writing. And everybody's, I had a conversation with an agent, I don't remember when and I don't remember who, but, this person had revealed it. And the reason was because she felt really bad for those first sets of buyers. It was like, okay, you need to be meaner. I'm sorry. You can't breach the act. You don't work for those buyers. Their buyer's agent needs to have warned them about the possibility of that, depending on the market. That is absolutely not up to you to reveal. And you want to have the pros and cons conversation about what you're revealing with your seller before you do it. This is the upside. The upside is that they may just go ahead and firm and not ask us for anything. The downside is they might get spooked. if there's, the second offer, even though it might be $1,000 higher, they still haven't done their financing or their inspection or anything else. So maybe we don't actually want them, because for $1,000, these guys are 99% of the way through. So you want to have those conversations with your seller as an informed conversation, so that they make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to let them know or not. And if you do let them know it exists, you tell them nothing about it. You could have a backup offer that's an SOBP. It's a terrible backup offer. It's useless. But that doesn't matter. It's a backup offer. So you might have the permission to say, when they write an amendment, you need to think very carefully about whether or not you want to do that. I have the authorization to tell you that we do have a backup offer. You don't get to tell them the terms of that offer. The other question I get on multiple offers is, can you have an SOBP against a regular in an offer, in a multiple offer? Yes, you can. Why you bothered to put pen to paper, I'm not really sure, but you can. Any offer, written offer, is an offer. It is a multiple. It is not only a multiple if it is what we call a clean deal. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You gotta give me something here, guys. I'm sitting in my office looking at myself in the computer. So next thing is, let's talk about being a buyer. Okay, we've got 15 minutes to go through this. Any longer and your brain starts to bleed. Okay, so I'm a buyer and I'm writing in multiples. Okay, so number one, you obviously need to advise your client. If you're writing the first offer and you're not yet in competition, in our market, you definitely want to be having the conversation about what happens in multiples and how they work, and what will happen if we get notice. We're going to go in with A, but if we get notice, then do we have a plan B? Because we may have very limited time to make that decision. We want to talk about it now. You want to be ready to have a change done, etc. Okay? So when you write your offer and you're clean, there's no multiples, and then you get the phone call, that's not when you want to be instructing a buyer about multiples. That's the wrong time. It's overwhelming. They're going to feel that you didn't prepare them. You need to be having that conversation earlier. So then you can adapt. Either they're going to let their offer stand. Again, get an instruction somehow in writing from your consumer. If your buyer chooses to let their offer stand once you've notified them in multiple, because you need to be protected that if this frickin' thing sells for $500 more than you offered, that they cannot in any way claim that they did not have an opportunity to make a change. Because they go look it up after it firms. You know this, right? To find out what the other one sold for when they're multiple, right? So to protect you, you want to make sure that you have given your buyer the opportunity to change their offer. You now know the rules about what kind of paper you have to do for that, so I'm not going to go through that again. Now, if you are writing offer number 2, you already know offer number 1 is in. The number one question you're going to get from your clients is, can they counter both, right? And the answer is, they can counter both, but they can only accept one. And they can't counter both as active deals. They can only counter one as a backup and one as active. And they will ask you why. Why is that you cannot counter 2 at the same time to see who does what you want? Anybody know? Why can't I say to Mary and Holly, counter offer 310, closing date of X? Why can't I send that to both of them?
Because you're disclosing information that you shouldn't be disclosing to the other party.
No, but that's a good try. Why no? Why can't
Also,
you?
if they both accept, then we are in big boo-boo.
Correct. What if they both say yes? I don't think those families want to actually live together. You cannot offer the same piece of pie to 2 families and then expect them to share it.
Exactly.
Because if they both accept the counter, you have 2 offers on the same property in force. It doesn't work. So that's because a lot of times buyers think, well, they can just play with all of us at the same time. You're like, nope, we got to go in with our big stick, because they only get to play with one. You need to understand that when you're writing in multiple. The other thing you need to be careful of when you're writing in multiple is that the question is, it's not just price. There's price, there's deposit, And then there's conditions and how much ridiculousness you're asking for in a multiple. This is where your expertise and advice in working with buyers to say, no, this is not the time to ask for the kitchen table and the chairs and the hutch. No, we're not asking for that now. We're multiple. You might have been able to have that before, but no, not now. This is when you don't say, oh, I want an engineer, and oh, I want this. You just leave it at inspections, because inspections lets you bring in all the other humans, but you don't write it in because it's already covered. This is where, you know, you are a little leaner in terms of how you're dealing with it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Indeed, it does.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, we do not want our clients in a multiple, be really, really careful in a multiple that you are not advising your client to pay a price with which they will be arse upside down if they had to sell in a short period of time. Do not advise you. If they want to pay it, that's fine, but you need to make notes, because what can happen is people can get caught up in the excitement and significantly overpay depending on the submarket. And then they're in trouble because they legitimately, like, we can't foresee a time when we're not in another bubble that or seller's market in that particular pocket where they would ever get that kind of money for it. Give you an example. There's a house in Dartmouth. Downtown Dartmouth is ridiculous right now. Like, it's gloomy for anybody that's not in Dartmouth. Like, you know, you're lined up on the street. They're sold in 6 hours. Like, it's craziness. And there's one that went. We were part of the multiples. We were one of 12. The house was for sale 7 months ago for $299. 7 or 8 months ago. It went on the market now at I want to say $320. Nothing has changed. They did nothing. They literally did nothing. And we were in multiples. We went in at a certain price. I obviously can't tell you. We didn't win. The exact same house in a 6-month period. I think it sold for $355. Like, it was on the market for 125 days 8 months ago for $299. Couldn't give it away. Nothing's changed except the market. So we reached a point in our number with our clients where we said, yes, the market's good. Yes, there's there's how long you're going to stay there, et cetera, et cetera. But this is our recommendation as to what, based on the research we've done, what is a number, a break-even number for you. You can go as high or low as you want. We're just telling you, we've done a CMA. These are the numbers. This is the informed range we have for you. You do what you want. I didn't say quite like that. But you want to be careful that you don't advise people so high just to win, just to get the deal, that you actually gave them wrong advice, because in a multiple, the level of importance of your advice as a buyer's agent is extremely important and is weighted very, very heavily against that consumer's knowledge, because buying and selling is one thing, multiples and high markets and all that kind of stuff, that's a different ball of wax, and you want to make sure you're protected. So just be cognizant of that. Is just a general warning that I would give you. Does anybody have any questions about that?
No.
You guys agree?
No.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, agree. That's good. Good advice.
Okay. So, you know, there's lots of times when you go, yeah, totally, it's absolutely worth, pay an extra 10, pay an extra 20, whatever, to 5, whatever, because you know what, it's totally worth it. And there's some places now that are underpricing in order to create the fight. And so you're still at proper market, even if you technically pay more, but you're very comfortable in it as an agent that's like, it's still good value. Like, it's still good. It was worth it. They're going to love it. We're going to break even. Like, it's good. It's a good asset is what I'm saying. So, but you do need to make sure that they don't also get so caught up in the multiple that they waive rights that they're not actually prepared to do, like waiving inspections, waiving financing, waiving whatever. Okay, lawyer, God, never waive lawyer review. I don't care how much of a fight you're in. Always, 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 always have lawyer review. You can waive everything else, but you cannot waive lawyer review. Period. Do not do that. I will come and send you a really nasty email. Okay? You have to keep lawyer review. It's the absolutely only last thread to protect your buyer. And if you go into multiples or any other offer for that matter, and your client waives inspection, water test, sewer line, building, you name it, not just inspection, but sewer line, septic, water, whatever, You need them to sign a waiver, and we have one in web forms, and you need to specify what they've waived. You don't just mark inspection, you mark building inspection, sewer line inspection. If it's an old building, electrician, like if they're waiving that, you want it laid out and you want it signed. Very, very important. This does not go to anyone, it's an internal document, but they need to be very clear that if in the course of winning this property, they waived these rights. If it's a
when you say it doesn't go anywhere, it goes to them for signature, obviously, but it just goes in our file
to the office. It doesn't go to the other side.
Yeah. Okay. So to be brought up.
Let's say in 4.1 you have nothing, and you have waived out 4.1, and you only kept 8.2 for lawyer review. I think it's 8.2. Anyway, whatever. There's a waiver on web forms. You add notes as to what they've waived, and you sign it, and it gets sent to us, and it's kept in your file.
So I see. Financing isn't part of that, though, is it? It's just.
Yep.
So if somebody does not have a financing clause, you need to have a waiver?
In a multiple, I would do it.
Oh, in a multiple. Okay, good. Yep. Thank you.
And do you put the lawyer approval date similar to the other approval dates?
Yes, your lawyer review date, in my opinion, should always be your last condition date. Whatever your last condition date is lawyer review. And the reason being is there's an argument about this, and of course you guys know I have an opinion. And that is that people say, well, yeah, the lawyer's looking at the deal, and so they're going to check title and do that. Well, they can do that in the first 2 days. Okay, but if I have inspections and septic and zoning and easements and all this other stuff that comes up throughout my deal, and my client wants the right to talk to their lawyer about it, and I want the right to talk to that lawyer about how I'm drafting that amendment, or I'm telling you to go back to the lawyer, and you've waived lawyer review, you can't then go back out on it. It is absolutely essential that it is there till the end. And if you extend inspections, I typically want you to extend your lawyer review clause to match.
Okay, good idea.
It should wrap everything else up in a bow. And here's the reality. When people fight you on that, it makes me very uncomfortable because I feel like they have something to hide. Why is my client getting independent advice a problem for you? To make sure that we've written something that's the benefit and safety for all parties. Why is that a problem? How is that a problem? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when we're talking about multiples, so as a buyer's agent, again, remembering that we are not going to know what the other deal is. We are not going to know the price. We are not going to know the terms, and making sure that you're communicating with your buyers what they're going to know and what they're not going to know, and how blind it is when they go in. Okay? Because some people are just not ready for that. And again, making sure they understand that they think they're going to get a second chance. Like in most cases, the buyers think that there's going to be like another round to this versus it all goes in and gets decided and they're out. They're out. So they really need to go in with their A game. Sometimes you'll have buyers who have to lose a multiple before they get it to start actually going in with their true A game. You also want to make sure if you're pushing the numbers higher than what you say typically been searching for, you want to make sure that maybe you have them make a call or you make a call to confirm with their financing person that we aren't pushing beyond where we can afford, right? Because sometimes that happens. So you're in really heavy advice mode. And so for that matter, that's why, in the ideal scenario, in a multiple, you are in true agency, because it's not simple, right? It's really not simple.
And
yes.
Quick question. And I'm just changing topic a little bit. You're representing the seller. You've received multiple offers. You want to accept one where there's no conditions.
Yep.
Not even financing. Would you counter that asking for a letter of proof that they can afford the property?
You can.
Because they could waive financing and not be able to, there's no proof that they can afford it.
Yeah, so that's where the Google is helpful. Sometimes it's about Googling the clients. Like their names are there. Like Facebook them, Google them, LinkedIn them. You know, you got 2 doctors, you might be okay with it.
Yeah.
You got 2 people that work at Walmart, you may say, I'm not as comfortable waiving financing unless there's something else going on, right? Not to be judgy, I don't mean it that way, dig myself out of a hole here. But you can absolutely request for proof of financing, and I would say they would have no issue accepting that.
Okay.
It should be
And that could also be the same if you're representing a buyer. They say, oh no, we want to waive financing. Well, I want to make sure that, yeah, financing is okay. So I would probably request from them to get a letter from their financial institution, wouldn't I?
Yeah, you can. What you can also do too, if you're in a multiple, if you already have a finance letter available, you could attach a proof of finance capability that's vague, doesn't specify anything to an offer to distinguish yourself. Like there's, you know, if that's a lawful instruction and your client signs off and attaches it, you know, you're trying to say, you know, everyone else might be going in at 90% financing or whatever. We don't put the percentage anymore. But in a multiple, the other thing you can also do is, of course, with a lawful instruction, is to disclose the percentage of financing if your client has more than the average.
Right. So if they're putting down 30% or whatever, or 40%.
You could add that in additional provisions.
Okay.
To say the buyers are willing to disclose that they will be putting a 40% down payment down, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like that's strength of offer, right?
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
I did not know that we cannot disclose how long the commuting offer is open, because I've been asked many times. The other agent will say, I'm bringing you an offer. And I said, well, there's already an offer in. Okay, when's it open till? Yeah, what's the time it's open till? I'll try to get mine in.
Yep. You can say, I cannot tell you that, but I can tell you I'm presenting at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Agents say that, agents tell you all the time though.
But when it goes to complaint,
Yeah.
you're going to be squeaky clean and they're not.
Okay, cool.
And can they say, can you leave it till 6 o'clock? Because I will never get my offer in on time.
I would have to check with my client, but currently I am presenting at X time.
Okay.
Right? You need a lawful instruction. And if those other offers aren't open until 6, then your answer is going to have to be no, because you cannot discredit or harm other parties who've already come to the table in order to wait for the magical 4th offer.
Yes, which might never come. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's not fair play, right?
Okay.
Does anybody have any, we could probably talk about this for another hour, but I think we've covered, I hope, some really good meat for you in terms of new stuff. The one thing I guess I would close off with if there's not any other questions, would be if you are not dealing with multiples on a regular basis, when you are in them as a buyer or a seller, please call us. Please take 5 minutes and just run through where you're at and what's your timing and what's your scenario. It's really, really easy for us to help you on the phone with that and just kind of, you know, reposition. One last thing I will add is sometimes you can have a buyer, let's say you're a seller's agent, and you have a buyer's agent who says, how do I know you're in multiple? And you're like, well, I'm telling you you're in multiple. Well, how do I know? My buyer wants proof. And you're like, well, I don't know what to do, because you can't give them anything from the current offer. What do you do then? Tammy's not allowed to answer.
Get permission from your seller to send them an email no, I don't know. I don't know.
I love that you started so confidently, Holly. And the permission from your seller was awesome. Okay, so does anybody else have an idea? Because if not, I'll tell you the answer. What you can do is you can say, okay, obviously I can't, other than my saying I do, is obviously that's not good enough for your buyer because, you know, whatever. So what I can do is I can get confirmation from my broker. So how do you do that? Because you're thinking, well, how the hell does she know, right? And in our case, it's all she, so it's really easy to say. So the answer is very simple. You would send me both copies of offers. I'm not going to read them. I don't care. Not interested. I really don't care. But I can confirm that they do exist. And then I can send an email back to that agent who is asking to confirm that I have viewed and seen and can confirm the existence of multiple offers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add for one last thing? If it's not a lengthy conversation, can you please explain to the group why what conversation you need to have with your buyer if your buyer is the one that's accepting a backup offer and what that means to them in this market.
We already talked about that they can't go shopping.
Did we already talk about that?
We did.
I must have, sorry, I had to step away one time. So
I
that
asked
must have
the
been one
question.
time.
I asked the question whether the buyers were,
Tied to it.
tied to it. Yes, and it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I did have to step away for like 2 seconds, and apparently that's when you guys had.
That was the moment.
You had to go pee.
Does anybody else have any questions? When I hang up, you'll have 10. That's fine. If you do, just send me a message and then I can share it back out with the group.
Oh, I have a quick question, Anne.
Sure.
If the person on the other side presenting the offer to you, oh, wait a minute. The person on the other side is a broker.
Are you a buyer or a seller?
I'm presenting an offer on one of their properties and they're telling me they have another offer. That person is a broker. And you can still ask for them to confirm to me. You can still ask them to confirm it to me because it's just taking it to another level and I'm scary, so I'm okay with that. But it's a broker from another.
Doesn't matter. You can say, we have a policy. You can say, you can talk to your client and say, if you're uncomfortable, I can ask for confirmation to my broker. And then you can say to the other side, I know this might seem strange, but unfortunately, I know this wouldn't be you. So here's how I would approach it. I'd say, I know you would never do this. However, we are aware of some instances, can you believe it, where people are saying there's multiple offers and there's not. Could you please send an email to my broker to confirm that you, as a broker, to another broker, actually have 2 offers? I obviously know this isn't you, but we got burnt a couple times in the office and we're just checking.
They wouldn't send the offers. They would just say, I have.
Yeah, because if they report that
offer
to me,
yeah,
and we find out there's not later, they've just taken it, they've blatantly lied. They've taken it to a whole other level, right? What you're doing is calling them on it, right? Because if they have to send to me and put their broker's license on the line that there is 2 offers, there's going to be 2 offers if I get it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So just, reach out, like know that we're here and there's ways that we can help without breaching agency, without, it's like reading your files. I couldn't tell you what property I just looked at. I have absolutely no idea. No, we have no clue. We look at so much paper. It's just paper. We're looking at initials. We're not looking at anything else. So you can send them to me by email. I can look at them, see they're both valid for the same property very quickly, send an email out to that other agent, copy you on it and say, yeah, as a broker, I can confirm that these 2 exist and you are in fact in multiples. Done. Takes all the mystery away from it. And please don't do that for every deal. We really don't have time for that. But you are going to have some extreme cases where that's what the person needs in order to feel confident moving forward. And you know what? That's what we're here for. We're here to provide that extra level of oversight and so that the consumers on all end will feel that everybody's acting in their best interest. So if you have any questions on multiples, please do not hesitate to reach out to one of the broker team at any time. If you're not sure how to draft backup offers, if you're not sure what's your timing, are you in multiple, blah, 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 what do you do, how do you do it, how long do I have, just reach out. It's not easy, it is complicated, and you will get better and better at them the more you do. Anyway, I thank you all so much for taking the time to be here today with me, and have a great day.
Thank you, Anne. Appreciate it.
Anne,
Thank you
very much. It was great information.
Thank you, Anne.
Okay, bye guys. Bye.
Bye.